lean ground beef. Yeah, I guess some of you call this mince. Lean ground beef. And I went in a nice cast iron pan here. No oil whatsoever, no grease, no fat. But because I'm using lean ground beef, later on I will have to add some oil to the pot. For now, all we're doing, and it's on a medium flame, and I'm using my spatula. I can't remember, my friend made this for me. Beautiful piece of wood with the different shape, rounded. Yeah, it comes in very handy. But I'm just using that to crush it as it fries off, as it browns here. And I guess the time is right, because if I don't say it, you would have all kind of hole out here that be making the comments and all kind of things. This is not, I repeat, not your traditional curry beef. If you want that recipe, head over to CaribbeanPot.com. I have a few versions, the two popular ones being your typical Caribbean curry beef, and I have a coconut curry beef with potato. So with that out of the way, yeah, I ain't trying to have all the nincompoop and all of them making the comments and all kind of thing like that. There are two reasons for making it this way. One, it cooks a lot faster, and two, there was a request for curry, and I guess the person is from England, because I believe they asked, hey Chris, can you do a curry mince? And I believe this is what they mean by mince beef, right? So all we're doing, and I'm using the edge now to try and break it up, because I want to break it up. I do not like chunks of ground beef at all, period. I don't like it at all. So I'm breaking it up, and in the process, my heat is on medium, and I'm trying to burn off all the liquid that's going to sprout out naturally and help pull out all of the fat as well, because I will need that fat. It will take about 7 minutes. I'm not really trying to develop any color. This is fully cooked all the way through. And I notice the small pieces of beef that you're seeing there, nice and tiny pieces. So all we're going to do now is since I used lean ground beef, there wasn't too much fat. There wasn't enough fat in there. So I went in with some olive oil. That's 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil. If you wanted to use coconut oil will bring a nice sweetness to the game. So yeah, if you have coconut oil, unfortunately I don't have any at the moment. So I just went in with half of a large onion that's been diced up. And this, if you've seen any of my curry dishes, you'll know this is the sort of typical way I usually do my curry, yeah? So I'm going to turn my heat down to low, because I'm not trying to burn anything here, but we're trying to further flavor that oil. We already got that lovely beef flavor in there. So now it's onion, then it's a whole whack of garlic that's going in there, and that is about 8 cloves of garlic that I smashed with the side of my knife, and then I gave it a rough chop. Heat is still on low, by the way, and while we have all that niceness happening there, I am going to go in with some fresh ground black pepper. This is the sort of curry base, and the reason for the recipe, yeah, as I was alluding to earlier, we want something which will replicate the flavor of a good slow cooked 2.5 hours curry beef, but in 1/3 of the time or less, yeah? Maybe half an hour tops, but for now we're just trying to pull out all that flavor from there. And speaking about flavor, I need some cumin or jeera seeds in there. That's going to bring that earthiness to everything. Yeah, since I know, yeah, you know, here's the thing, carrots, curry, yeah, a little bit different, yeah? You're going to see a whole bunch of different things happening in here, but since I know my carrot is going to take long to cook to get tender, I'm going to add it to the pot at this point here. The carrot brings another level of sweetness and texture to the game. Plus it's going to be eye appealing as well too at the end of the day. Caribbean green seasoning, and that is a puree or a blend of all the herbs along with garlic and seasoning peppers like pimento peppers that we enjoy using in all of our dishes. It's sort of a base for many of our dishes in the Caribbean. We've got the Spanish version, we've got the Haitian épices So that goes in there. My heat is still on low. I'm just trying to just build flavors on the bottom here. In a second we'll turn up the heat, but let's let that green seasoning do its thing. There's thyme, scallion, shadow benny, cilantro, parsley, a whole bunch of different things in that green seasoning. Head over to caribbeanpot.com and that recipe will be there for you. It's now time to add your favorite curry powder to the mix. Give that a stir, heat still on low, and allow that to cook off the curry. What's going to happen, it's going to bloom all the spices which makes up a good curry powder. Your kitchen should have the lovely aroma of a good curry. Yeah, you better stick to your clothes. I'm going to turn my heat up to medium high, and I'm going to add 2 cups of water. I'm going to hit that a stir, and we're going to bring that up to a boil. It will not take long to come up to a bubble, so I'm going to go in with the tomato that I diced up. The tomato brings the whole acidity to the game and helps balance off the flavors. We're just going to let that simmer for about 5 minutes. Now we need to salt it because we didn't add any salt yet, so I'm going in with some sea salt. And what I have here is 3 bird's eye or bird pepper, and what I did, I kept them whole, but I cut them a slit in the middle to bring out all of that heat. That's going to go into the pot. And the reason for giving it the cut is to pull out all of the flavor. Now I could have chopped it up, but what I did was I left them whole, so if somebody's eating later on and they don't want to chew on the pepper, they can identify it and take it out because I want the heat. If you don't want the heat, do not make that cut that I made there. That's a little trick, a little tip that Chef Mark shared with me many moons ago, and it works. You all know I also like anchar masala, so I'm going to go in with some anchar masala in there, and you can get that anchar masala any West Indian store. If you don't have access to it, you can use dry roasted cumin. Although we had the cumin in there, the dry roasted cumin brings a different flavor altogether, and I find that the anchar masala that you just saw me go in with, that also does the same thing, brings a different layer of flavor. Yeah, this point is where we're going to add back the browned ground beef that we did at the start there. The reason being, we're going to allow this to cook for about 10 to 15 minutes, and I want the beef to pull in all those lovely flavors that we created to sort of give it a nice hot tub bath in, you know what I mean? So if you need to add a little bit more water, you can do that. I'm just going to bring this up to a boil now and then allow it to simmer so the beef soaks back and gets nice and tender, soaks back up all that lovely curry niceness there. 10 minutes in, and I've added some frozen peas. This is just sweet peas to the mix. Now this is a great way if your kids love, I hate using the word kids, if your children love curry, it's a great way to sneak all those vegetables in there. If you want to put some frozen corn in there, we have the carrots in there, we have the peas in there. Man, I'm telling you, boy, this thing is going to be outstanding. Whether you classify it as curry beef or not, it is still 100% delicious. Give it a minute, taste it for salt, adjust the salt, and then allow it to cook for a further 5 minutes or so. We just want everything to thicken up just a little bit more. And the reason why I suggested you taste it after a minute or two after adding the peas is because the peas will influence the amount, the salt taste in there. So that is nothing else is going in here, so that is the right time to taste it and adjust it for salt. Now let's quickly recap again to avoid the hate comments. This is not your typical Caribbean or any sort of curry beef you would find anywhere. We used ground beef, which some people call mince beef, instead for, you know, the whole idea here is to something quick. We also added carrots in there and peas and everything else. The cook time has reduced by considerably. At the end of the day, probably 30 minutes of cooking and 10 minutes of prep work, and you're done. So 40 minutes, and I mean to say you're enjoying it with a nice big heaping pile of white rice, and you're good. Nobody ain't complaining because you're getting the sort of beef flavor without having to chew like all tough beef and thing like that. Hey, you're gonna love this one. Sup, soldiers? Listen, if you enjoy this recipe, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and click that bell notification thing. If you've made the recipe, take a picture and send it to me. Email address down here. I mean, trying to tell people the email address, them butts will take the address and do all kind of thing with it. And tag me on Instagram at Caribbean Pot. I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for being in my kitchen with me today. Irie. The last thing, so we've got some chopped cilantro. Some of you call it coriander. We're gonna hit that a quick stir. We're gonna shut off the stove. The residual heat will further thicken this up for me. If you want it more thick, you can cook it down dry. Yeah, all the way dry if you want it to. Totally up to you, but I might need a little gravy, and I know this is gonna thicken up considerably once it cools down in this cast iron pan. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com, not your mommy's curry beef. Uncle Chris's take on a quick, simple, and tasty curry beef without all the work. Irie. What's up, soldiers? Don't forget to click subscribe. If you've already clicked subscribe, hit that bell notification thing. I want to all you missing out on the new videos, man. Come on, click.